That's okay, and we're live. Good afternoon. Dan EON-XR calling with our team here from around the globe. We are very happy and excited about having this webinar because we're going to talk about important things. The most important thing in our company and our mission is customer and customer satisfaction. And today, this is an interview with the customer success team from various corners of the world. I'll introduce them shortly to you. Actually, better still, let them introduce themselves. So you know me by now. I'm Dan EON-XR, I'm CEO and Chairman. And with me, I have my colleague from Sweden, our president, Mats. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, great to be here, Dan. Mats Johansson, president and co-founder of E.ON. And I spend most of my time now working with our excellent global customer success team. And they're really the secret sauce behind scaling the product and making our customers successful. So very excited to be here.
Excellent. And you are right now not in California, right? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm actually in Sweden for about a month, working from here. So it was an interesting experience to travel, but I made it here.
Okay, so let's move on. I have another colleague also from Europe, Marcin. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, hello everyone, and my name is Marcin Kasica. As Dan mentioned, I'm based in Poland. With EON Reality, I'm linked since around 2004, and my role is to lead the customer success within Europe and Africa, and I'm also responsible for the training and education on a global scale. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's move on to our hero in Singapore. What time do you have there? So it must be the middle of the night, right? Please
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm John. Like Dan said, I'm based in Singapore. I'm just like Marcin. I help our clients and better understand our products. I cover APAC and the Middle East as well. Yes, it's actually pretty late, but I'm very glad to be here to share our experiences with everybody.
Thank you. Looking very fresh. So now we continue our journey eastwards, and guess what? We're back in US. So let's go to Jamie. Jamie, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Justice. I'm Director of Education US and Global Innovation with EON Reality. I've been here now for 3 years, and I work closely in the Customer Success Department. And I've been on this virtual reality journey since 2002, and I can tell you right now is the most exciting time it's ever been since I've been looking at VR. In fact, from my days being in the Kentucky Community Technical College system. So glad to be here today.
So I have a question for you, Jamie. I guess the guitar and the rock band started before virtual and augmented reality, right?
Well, they've gone hand in hand, and you know, when I have a few moments, we're on it.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so last but not least, our also California customer success person. So why don't you introduce yourself? Okay, you are muted, or something is wrong with the microphone. We should have tested that before. Let's see if it works. We'll come back to you in a second. It's typically what it is, and it happens to me all the time, is that there's a setting and the microphone doesn't support that. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. What we are hoping to achieve is to address some of the pertinent questions that many people have asked us about what's happening after you enter in a partnership with EON. What are the implementation steps? How is the customer success post contract signing with regards to training, with education? How are customers really using the features? What do they like? So I will ask you questions about it. I know some of you also prepared materials that you like to share, so feel free to use your screen. And in the end of the event, I'll also take some questions from the audience. So let's see if John got his microphone. Otherwise, I'll start with the next question. Let's see again. Does it work? No, unfortunately not. But let's go to Jonathan Lee. Can you explain the creation process with respect to EON-XR. We know it's very easy to use, but walk us through the steps that once someone acquires the license has to learn in order to create applications with EON-XR.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the first thing we often think about when you want to create something is, where do I get the raw materials from, right? So, you know, you can't create things out of midair. I mean, out of plain air. You want to create something with substance, something with quality, and so forth. So actually, EON-XR really works on this by creating an ecosystem that allows you to not only bring in things that you own, but capture the real world around you. And maybe what I can do is, let me just show you, pointing to one of our videos that kind of highlights this. So let me just bring this up. I think you guys can see it. Yep. All right. Yeah. So, you know, just showing you in a brief, you know, capture. One of the first things we do is we make available to you, you know, we give access to like over 1 million different assets, right? And then secondly, we make it easy for you to bring in your own models, whether you created it yourself, maybe you found it online, you know, or maybe you got someone who has created, maybe you invested in AR, VR before, but you don't have all the models and you don't know what to do with it. So we make it easy for you to bring it in. And by making it so seamless, it kind of encourages you that I can actually do a lot with this, right? But one of the exciting things we are interested in is actually what you see on the screen right now, the ability for you to bring in scan models. So what you're doing now is you're not fictitiously creating new models or maybe taking from other people's content. You're taking things in your local context. And in my experience, especially in Asia, you know, things here are different from, you know, from the rest of the world as well. And having the local context and local flavor is important. So the ability for you, like what you see here, to eventually scan for anybody to really make use of it. And as you can see, it's actually pretty simple.
Fantastic. And once you get your models in, what can you do with them? I get them capturing is fantastic, but how do you bring them to life?
So for that, we actually use, we have a very easy to use lesson editor or lesson creator. I don't like to call it lessons. I like to call it experiences, right? Because you're going to transform somebody's, you know, day, you know, for all you matter. For all you may know, this lesson or this experience you're creating for a student might just inspire him to be the next, you know, Elon Musk or become the next great world leader, for all you may know. So our editor is so simple. It's actually code free. It is all visual. Anybody can make use of it. And one thing I tell every single educator I meet, even if, you know, normally you think about AR, VR, isn't that for engineering? Isn't that for like, you know, those who are in gaming and all that? But you know what? If you I come from a language background. I used to be a language teacher, right? I can make use of this. You know, it's not about the tool anymore. It's about the simplicity. What are the opportunities I can create and make available to everybody? So it's a no-code tool, easy to do. In our latest release, it's even going to look even better, and I think it's going to change. It really changed the game in how educators think about content in their classroom.
That makes sense. So, okay, let me see if I got it. I should know this because I'm working with it, but just for the audience sake, I'm playing the role here. You capture your data one way or the other. You either get it from your huge vast library, you import it, or you scan it using a normal phone. By the way, that feature I think is amazing because it used to be bulky equipment that required. Now I see there's a red scene. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then we got that, and then you said you bring it to life somehow, and you inject all that type of interaction capability, and then what do you do next? I assume that you somehow need to get it out, right? What's that process like?
Okay. So for that, what we can do is that we can actually use EON-XR to deliver those experiences. Now, let me bring back my screen again. I don't want to hog everybody's time, of course. So
no, you're doing fine. Yeah. You actually buy time for John Green because he needs to get his microphone to work. By the way, we can do a little test now, John. Let's see if we can hear you. Okay, he's went to the.
No comprende.
No comprende. Okay, so he used to work. By the way, he used to work for the language learning company also. That just strikes.
That's right.
We have two. Okay, so please go ahead.
Okay, so let's take this scenario, right? I created my experience, and I'm going to give it to my students now. I won't go into the details like, do I want to assign it? Do I want to give them a link? But EON-XR basically does all the above, right? But what's interesting is this: when we create that experience, it doesn't matter what kind of mode you want to play the experience in. I could use it as a touch experience. I could have it in VR. But I think one of the key things that we think, or at least I think rather, that is unique is actually the augmented reality mode, because that really changes everything. So just to show you this, the example here, this is a lesson about, I think it's a turtle. And you can see there are multiple models. All this is in AR, and they are so lifelike. Imagine having a practical hands-on class. Like in this case, this could be history. It could be a history lesson. It's a torture device, right? Where would you normally have to go and learn these things, right?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I couldn't.
No. Yeah. I mean, think about the kind of possibilities, right? If you want to see such a device, for example, and you want to give imagination, right, and exposure. Again, it's all experiences. Where would you go? You bring them to the museum. But here, you can have your own museum anywhere, right? You can have a virtual museum in your classroom. You can have it at home. With remote-based learning, it changes the game. Just to show another example, this is the one at a beach. Using augmented reality, being fully immersed, and even we talk about scanning in objects, right? But now we can even do environments. And now I'm on a space station, and I can just blow my imagination wide and transform the way I think and view the world.
I can see you're passionate about this, John. Yeah. So thank you for that. We went through a great amount of detail. So the last part, just to recap it. Yeah. So I capture it, I create my interaction, and then I publish it. And I can publish it on my phone, in AR, in VR.
Yeah, any device. Yeah.
Any device. That's wonderful. The reason I think that's important, because one of the biggest obstacles I've seen, I've been working with this for 36 years, 22 with EON, is that it has been cost prohibitive, right? I mean, everybody talked about it, but it hasn't been accessible and affordable. But the good news now that 4 billion people have these devices already in their hands. So with the EON license, you can do everything you showed us. And that brings me to, with respect to those features, Marcin, I know you've been teaching thousands of people over the years. What do you see, which of the features do you see are most beneficial with regards to the type of learning, training, and performing that we are conducting?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I mean, there are, of course, plenty of them in the platform. I think the number one is the accessibility, and the fact that, as you mentioned, that right now the teachers who usually put on their doors, do not disturb, switch off your phones. Right now, they can use the device that usually was a distraction. And right now, we're trying to make it really a smart device that you can access your lessons. Here it is, on the classroom computer, or is it home computer, access to the platform from every place. You want to just get there and access to the same content that is created for you or can be created by you. The ability to have this content, no matter what format of interaction you're using, having this content as an educational content. So it's no longer a fun for fun. It's actually something that brings the knowledge with it. So enhancing of the 3D object and building this contextual knowledge sharing tools, that's, I think, what makes a difference. And comparing that also with the one-to-one scale, so ability to present something that was existing and doesn't exist anymore, something that might exist in the future, so presenting the ideas, presenting the future, having an access to it from any place within any kind of a scenario, exploring it in a one-to-one scale, in augmented reality, mixed reality solution. I think that's what makes the difference. And that's what makes the education of the 21st century actually having a meaning. In this case, we're moving away from a traditional listen, I'm a teacher, listen to me, but putting into the different formats, collaborative learning, something that has a much more bigger impact on the current generation, when the people can not only see the object the way they are, they can see it in their own environment, which we know become a very important for the education in the COVID era as well, when we have to use our home office, our living rooms as a classroom. And right now, this classroom can be filled with the same kind of equipment, with even, I would say, the better equipment in your living
I think we the audio is cut.
Sorry, there was a technical issue there.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
You're back now, right? Everybody's back. Sorry for that.
No problem. Hi, Dan.
Someone came in my house and I had to close the door. That's what happened.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear it loud and clear. We're still living in a post-pandemic era, in a pandemic era where we have to work from home.
Absolutely.
But no, what you said is very intriguing. You know, when you're showing me this, I don't want to interrupt you, but one thing that came to mind looking at especially the engine is that a lot of these things in real life, most people don't see.
Comments that lots of the teachers get very excited about when they see for the first time EON-XR is intuitively, the first things that comes into their mind is the ability to put a digital twin of the laboratory into the virtual reality, when into the also using the photorealism of a 360, when just using a simple camera, we can just take it and take the environments, take the classroom and bring it to any location. Right now, with the increased photorealism within the application, we also looking forward to get more even this kind of authentic experience that we can not only see the object, but have the feeling of them being surrounded, being part of our environments. So I think the ability to bring the laboratories and the full environments into the education done remotely, distantly, and with the support of the technology. Because honestly speaking, none of the technology, either VR and AR, is not there to replace a human. It's not to fix all the problems in the education, but they are there to support it and to make it better and more effective. And I think that's what the EON-XR is actually allowing to do.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a sandbox where it provides teachers and students a way to express themselves and experience things. So I really understand that component. And also I feel sometimes that the world is dissolving. I don't know if the material world is dissolving. I used to have a gramophone. I used to have, a flashlight. I used to have, a TV. All that is now in my mobile device. I don't have a flashlight. It became from 6 devices one. The virtual reality almost has something new, something beyond that, where what you're showing me is not just a physical representation, but I see knowledge injected, encapsulated. So the real engine can't tell much about itself, but this environment, I understand, based on annotation, could. Very exciting stuff indeed. Jamie, I want to go to you, unless you have something else to share now. We'll come back to you, Mars, in a second. Jamie, both of us are about the same age, correct? I'm in a virtual classroom, merged campus, all these things, digital twins. So it appears almost that we are there. What's your thoughts on that, Jamie?
That is exactly, I kind of switched gears in what I was even going to say in the last, as everyone observed the first presentation from Martin and John Lee, the quality and the visual aspects and all the things that you can create now. And as I mentioned in my introduction, that I started this journey in virtual reality of how it can improve the teaching and learning process around 2002 in my time during the Kentucky Community Technical College system. And to that end, I want to share a quick screen shot of this and of some thinking that I've been doing. And I want to perhaps maybe switch this into a play mode and switch visualizations. Bear with me just 1 second as I get the right screen showing as it should. And so let me switch screens. And so now you can see my screen?
Yeah, we actually see better when it was in full screen. Now it turns into semi-mode, but it's fine. Just go ahead.
I can go back. You see it
yeah,
better
the way it was before was better, actually, because we could see the full screen.
All right.
That's the way. If you could keep it that way, that would be great. Thank you.
That's fine. So, thinking differently about teaching and learning. So back from my experience in education, I have to look at how this can be different. And one of the things that occurred to me right before the pandemic started in 2020, and just to your point, Dan, about where are we now versus where we were, I think we've gone from a point of random acts of progress using VR, AR, as I mentioned, and all those things were good that happened. But post 2020, it kicked into high gear, not because of the pandemic, just because things were ready. But I hope that what you've seen already and some of the quality and the visualizations that you've seen, that you're going to be so excited when you see what's coming. That's all I can say is I am just so ramped up about it. And so I think we're moving from these areas of random acts of progress using VR to where now we can think strategically about how we can use VR to enhance and change the educational practice. And so it comes down to simple things. And this is an older app that I created, but in this particular case, you're looking at just a simple welding tool. Now, maybe students are working remotely, as we saw through the pandemic. They do not have access to some of these tools. You can create those and make those in better methods. But let's take a look at just a few other things you can do. Think about the possibility of having a virtual classroom that Dan mentioned. And now your students are not in your classroom, but they're actually they're working with you inside of this environment. And you can do a virtual meeting, and they can log on from their phone, their tablet, or device, and the students can interact in that environment. And you can see here now we have an instructor who's leading some demonstration perhaps about the model. And then we can see, that students will take over whenever or wherever they are, depending on, like we are all here now. John Lee's in the middle of the night, and I'm in the middle of the day. But the students can participate in real time. So now you can see this student has perhaps taken over the demonstration. So it gives us a close chance to having a simulated classroom experience with a virtual world, which is amazing. And the future of that is yet to come is even bigger. So I played around a little bit, and you saw my backdrop. And I thought, what if I could actually talk about putting a baby grand piano in my mix of rooms? Now, I didn't really have room to zoom this thing up to full 1:1 scale. But now look at the photorealism, and look at, I also have a baby grand piano in my studio, and I'm playing around with that. So I've got, what are the parts of a baby grand piano? What made it famous, and how do the hammers work, and how do the strings work? And so suddenly we can mix the past with the future and be very strategic in the way that we engage and we teach students. And just another quick—
Can I ask you a question? Can you stay on the piano for a second? Because I bet you that if you can roll back for a second.
Yes.
Everybody's minds that is a bit creative will think, wait a second, with the new devices, with EON and the new devices that you have, I could actually play that piano with a new user interface. Not only can I play that piano, but I can play it in different versions of the piano in Baroque style. And suddenly it kind of goes back to my deconstruction of my flashlight on the physical world is dissolving in a way. And knowledge acquisition, what we are all about, becomes a part of the process actually to acquire this. So it's just, sorry.
Well, yeah,
I'm not being on the side, but I just couldn't resist that comment.
Well, to your point, though, I mean, how we democratize education, and now it's better access. So everybody can have access to a Yamaha piano, a Bosendorfer piano, or a Steinway & Sons, or a Korg, or whatever type of technology it is, in an environment that they're comfortable with. So that was that thing that was the real door, the eye opener for me in 2020 was I created a lesson in front of a class, and in 15 minutes I walked back and I put on a VR headset and I played that same lesson that I just created in that headset, and it hit me that everything we talked about in 2002 that we envisioned for teaching and learning is now possible here in 2021, 2022. And so, if I take example of some applications, I probably started this video in the wrong spot on this particular one. But if I look at an application that a faculty member has created, so now we can take someone perhaps to the Parthenon, and we can scanner's not work for me there. I found it, and so I'll scroll through these a little bit quickly. But you can just see all the different types of topics that can be covered. This was created by students, and it's really important to think about that too, as far as thinking differently about teaching and learning. Do not miss the power of having students actually create using this application. There's multiple things that they gain from that. One, the first research they do on a topic is their learning, the first learning that they do. And I'll just scroll past that one. I didn't mean to get the audio on there. So that may be their first learning. So then they do the research, but the real power of this is they take what they learned and we ask them to create an application to teach about jellyfish, for example. So they learned about jellyfish. Now they're going to try to teach others, and they use the app and the simple building tools that we have that enable that. And then ultimately, the third reinforcement of learning is that they present it to their classmates in any one of the means that we've just shared and that you've seen today. And so now that reinforcement of learning becomes very powerful. And so think differently about the way that you use technology in the teaching and learning process. And just one more quick example, and then I'll hand it back over because I don't want to use up all the time. But again, thinking about—
we have plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay, so thinking about basic electronics, and this is a good example of a digital twin, as Dan mentioned before. So you want to teach breadboarding, and In the past, the students had to have a textbook and all kinds of things laid out, and they had to figure out, other ways and things. But now you can walk them through for their first learning. And this is just a simple model of a breadboard and some circuitry. And so this is what was created first to demonstrate, what the task is that you're going to do. Now we res that in AR mode. And for you gamers, res, you res an object into the real world. And now here we have a real breadboard with the same components, or similar I'm saying, since 2002. And where you find these applications fit, they become very powerful tools and means to improve teaching and learning. So last thing I wanted to share was this quick video of how we can use 360 images and actually transport students into a place that they can't actually go. In this case, a surgical suite. You can't actually walk a student into a surgical suite. And so maybe this is an online course. And now we can have that student tour that suite, looking at the 360 images, as Martin mentioned earlier. But now maybe we can cut another video into this of an instructor teaching how to set a surgical table in real world. So you have a blend of your real and your normal teaching environment with a virtual environment using 360, using 360 objects, using photorealism, using multiple devices from head mount displays or whatever. It is a very powerful, exciting time to live in. And as Dan mentioned, I think, the best is yet to come, and I think you'll see that on the 15th. But that's just me. I'm pretty stoked about where we are.
Listen, I can tell you one thing. We've come a long way since you and I met 20 years ago soon. Yeah. And this technology is, I couldn't dream about it. One thing hasn't changed. Your passion and enthusiasm, it's authentic. Like you can see it. You almost sometimes stumble on your words, but because you're passionate about this. And listen, I look forward to the next 5-10 years together. We've been together for, in this company for almost its inception. Now, moving on, let's look at the future. If the past is exciting and where we reached so far, how about what's going to happen next? And I know something. Talking about next Tuesday is a big day for EON, because that's when we're launching the EON-XR 9.0. Our team has been working endless nights on that, and I'll do a try now with John Green. If it doesn't work, I'll try to share with you what you were supposed to share. I prepared that a little bit on the side. So let's give it a try, John. Let's see. Not your lucky day. Anyway, that's life. You're smiling. That's good. So let me just try to do you a favor, and I'm going to share my screen, and let's try to see if I can avoid this ghost effect first. 1 second. Okay. So you should be able to see my screen in a second. I'm not as good as you guys on technology, but I'll manage. Still have a look there. So let's start with something authentic. So you can see that I'm in a room. This is a physical room. And one thing I played with is this room, and I have a terrace. And this is actually my house, but I haven't been able to afford a bar or any bar chairs, anything. So you're actually looking at reality. So reality is looking pretty dull. The only thing I have is those IKEA lamps. That's it. There's nothing else. But in augmented reality, I'm not limited to that. I'm actually almost in something happened here. Okay, I'm back. I'm almost like in a Brazilian beach with a lounge. And of course, you can imagine this can be used for architecture, right? You can remodel things, but it doesn't have to be a lounge area. It could be a hospital. It could be a factory. It could be an emergency situation on a fireplace. So, and I can create that environment in real time using just this technology. And so the realism in this case, in my opinion, but there's no camera. And I discovered something really scary. After a while, you kind of get fun about the artifacts, the augmented reality artifacts. And when they are gone, you kind of miss them. So I predict that in the future, this beyond learning, people will have pieces of art that are artistic. The other thing that I think is exciting about the new features is that the ability to experience the same thing in multiple ways. So you can see here to the left that this is the same room like that you have here. There's no difference. The only difference is that it's experience a different EON-XR modality. So EON can create the content once, and then easily shift from one modality, which in this case using just a phone, and to the left, I'm in another modality. I'm actually on a virtual headset or in a mobile environment. So the key features that we're excited about is the expanded import of assets and ability to get scanned objects, the smooth lesson interface with improved visuals and much more efficient way of creating content, the ability to expand the lessons playlist, so you can create your own work environment, you can create playlists, the unparalleled visual quality that I think talks for itself. They also extend the capability to have XR meetings. When you were talking about that, Marcin, I think XR meeting is perhaps number one that comes to mind. And then finally, the marketplace, the ability we have a whole new admin section that is visual, that has statistics, etc. The desktop for Mac, we had Mac before, it's just that you were not able to create in Mac. Now you can do both creation experience in Mac. And obviously, the much smoother interaction, because now we are an Oculus App Lab, which takes, a second to download versus the good old days. So overall, it's a big lift. So that was my only comment to help John a little bit there. And with that, I'm getting back to you guys. Let's stop sharing screen. And there we are. We're back. Let's go around the world, because this is supposed to be not only us talking about the product and how excited we are. We want to hear from the customer's voice, right? What are customers doing this? So why don't we start with Jamie and North America? Tell us a little bit about how various customers are using this today in North America.
Well, primarily we're kicking off with the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College System, and Mississippi has engaged all their faculty and staff in creating content and have created their EON Elite Forces team that are creating specific content and integrating that with their students across the board through their learning management system of Canvas, so that there's multiple ways for students to engage and interact. And then also they're including this technology and other things that we do inside their simulation and game design program, which is going to end in a 2-year degree for the students who come through with multiple.
Is it a few? Is it many? And also, how many faculty members you've been able to train on EON-XR?
At this point, I think probably over 70 of their faculty have been trained in the XR Educator initiative. And all of the faculty and staff are licensed users of the platform, so they're experimenting with it now, using and building their own content. Over 3,100 of their students, so their 10,000 students, have already been enrolled through the LMS. Of course, we're in summer school right now. And so I expect that when the fall semester starts and the faculty have had more opportunity to create their applications, that we'll see those numbers climb. The power of using the LMS, and again, I want to go back to that point I made about, do not forget about allowing students.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's a little bit of squeaking. I don't know who's squeaking. There's someone's chair. Just for the benefit of our listener.
Okay.
I don't know if it's only me hearing it, but okay. Anyway, please continue.
I want to just final say to anyone who's partnering with this, do not forget the power of giving licenses to students and having them use this platform to create their own stuff. Just explore with it and to use it, and then make it part of education and training program. I think you're going to see that apps will beget more apps, and more apps will beget more apps, and before you know it, you have all kinds of content that's really unique, but it's personal to the students, and they'll take pride in it and ownership. And I think engagement will go off the charts, as well as their ability to attain and be successful in all their education programs, giving them access to content.
Yeah, just in that context, Matt, because I think you shared some information about the statistics. How many students will have access at Mississippi totally, and how many faculty members?
Yeah, there's the two primary colleges in Mississippi, Gulf Coast and Hines, are on the platform and rolling out, and they each have about 15,000 students. And then there's actually another number of smaller colleges where we'll work with them as satellites as well. So eventually, it's a whole state of Mississippi on the college level.
But under this that we have signed with them, is it fair to say that it's 30,000 students that will have access to licenses? So it's basically two
That's
campuses.
correct. That's current.
How about the faculty members? How many faculty members? For
so
example?
it varies a little bit from college to college, but I think, Jamie, there's about 1,000 faculty members from Gulf Coast, and I would assume it's somewhat similar from Heinz.
Excellent.
Also, about North America as well, I don't want to forget our other partners at Manchester who've been using it in their computer program, and they've been creating a lot of their own unique assets and have been doing some unique training in computer security and networking systems as well. And those have been engaged with students, and there's several hundred students in that small program that have been involved without the specific members. We also have some other partners who are just on the front end of starting and doing some experimenting and developing and building their own applications. At Centennial College in Canada has been doing some experimenting lately with some unique ways of using the platform, and we'll see more about that in the near future. So the users are taking hold, they're beginning to kick off and engage with it. I'm looking forward to August when the fall semester starts, and we'll start really seeing some numbers tick up with content that's used and created.
Perfect. Let's go back to Singapore. And I know that you work over entire Asia Pacific. Can you share some stories about customers and what they do?
So that's interesting, right? Because I think one of the hints I gave earlier is all about localization. One thing about our clients, I mean, especially in my part of the world, is that we have such a huge diversity in terms of languages, cultures, countries, and I mean, I live in Singapore, right in the middle, where I have Indonesia, Malaysia, and all the other countries around us. Now, one of the things about our clients that I noticed is that the yearning for very culture-specific type of content or things that are related to things within the country itself. And maybe, in preparation for tonight, I selected actually two examples. I thought, just in anticipation for this question. Maybe what I can do is let me just bring up the first one. So I want to share this example of one of our partners in Vietnam. Vietnam in itself is a homogeneous market, right? They speak Vietnamese. I mean, it's no-brainer, right? And of course, English will always spread in all the Southeast Asian countries. But what's unique is that, there's not really a lot of AR, VR solutions out in the market or any educational content in that area that is made for Vietnamese market, that's catered for multiple languages and so forth. And so what they did was they took EON-XR. This is a project with UNICEF, by the way. So they're not just teaching city kids. They're going out in the rural, in the villages, and then bringing XR learning to places where normally you wouldn't find all that. And you can see here, for example, villages, and we're really talking about like in the middle of the mountains and so forth. You don't exactly get the best equipment out there, right? So what they did was they bring the science experiment to the kids. So here's maybe it's not that great an example. Maybe I'll switch to a different one because it's a little bit dark. Maybe this one should be better, I think. Yeah, here we go. It's like that example, right?
And by the way, that's a big difference between AR and VR. So I almost asked my developers, so let's start in AR mode because that's so much fun.
No, I think AR is like a very low-hanging fruit for anybody, right? Any device with a camera, you can actually have the AR experience. And this is literally what the kids are doing right now, right? They we have other photos and videos of them, really enjoying themselves, again, learning about things anywhere. And not to mention, again, we are doing this in Vietnamese. We're doing this remotely. EON-XR has a wonderful offline mode that allows us to play all that. Yeah. Wow. It just works for them, and the partnership with UNICEF has been strong, and then the reception from the kids have been getting stronger as well. Maybe one more I would like to share. It's not so much in APAC, but really in the Middle East. It's actually our partners as well, Xena Technology, where what they are doing, they are trying to. They're kind of pushing the boundaries of what's available, actually, in a way, if you think about it. What they want to do is create Arabic content designed for, the Middle Eastern nations. It's not about, sometimes in some parts of the world, even being a former educator, we take textbooks or we learn content and we assume that this content is, suitable for my culture or suitable for my for my use. And in some countries, they take a second view to that. They rethink about content. Is this suitable for my country? Is this designed for my culture? Is it designed for my nation? You know, in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what our partners here are doing is that they are trying to create Arabic-centric content. Now, in some examples, like I remember interviewing Dr. Keda, sorry. And I asked him a question like, why choose a violin? Like, for example, this is a start point where comparison. They can use open dialogue. They can talk about culture, and it opens the doors to so many other possibilities for them. And of course, when you do it in Arabic, you're breaking down the barriers of entry for people who may not know English, for example, one of the most common languages in the world, right? So now you're opening doors for students to explore even deeper in something within that they're familiar with, and it kind of encourages us to explore more, and of course they'll move on. And like I said at the beginning, you might, for all this, I don't like calling them lessons, I like calling them experiences. You might create the next Elon Musk or the next world leader and inspire them to do big things. And I think that's what our clients and partners are doing right now.
Thank you for that. I actually had the benefit to listen to some of this lesson in Arabic and have these recited in the local language and see, right to left text to it. So it was fascinating. I'm from Europe, so I'm originally from Sweden. And I think Europe is also multicultural, you can say at least. And actually, if you look at US, we have 350 million. Europe has 700 million. And how many cultures and many ways the cradle of at least the Western society. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Europeans are faring in this context, Martin?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just confirm you guys will be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we do.
So actually, while I was listening to Jonathan, I was preparing the same thing, and you can find more on our website as per those testimonials and the case studies. But I have the privilege to work with within the old continent and with the educational institution that existing for a long period of time. Given an example, one of the partners, Babeș-Bolyai University, which is based in Romania, they right now very actively incorporating that within their university. They are also planning to incorporate it within their own curricula, which we're probably going to talk a little bit later. But the fact is, they're moving at full speed with training hundreds of educators first, then preparing them as a champions and moving towards they creating the lessons themselves. So they're getting ready for the challenge of the creativity, of the challenge where you can show either is a geological science, a historical science, either is the aerospace industry, or is it even language lessons. I actually very much like the creativity in approach to teach the language and how to form the English as a second language, how to prepare the different lessons, different descriptions in here that will teach people how to form the sentences in the right order, which I probably can use.
Yeah, that's what
I can probably use. But what it is important, so going with that, they going then later as a next step towards the rolling out to the students, to the thousands of students. And your question was about the numbers. So I'm actually very keen to say, both Kosovo, Romania, and many other locations around Europe, they're doing it in thousands. So as you guys probably know, within the GGP format, we're starting with the 5,000 licenses for the students and educators. So overall, that brings a massive number of users who are not there just to consume, but preliminary, they are there to create, share, and experiment. So I think that's the good thing. And if I can spare one more minute, because I'm also working in Africa, and that there is two different words, of course, between the Europe and Africa, of course. And in Africa, I see a massive potential and massive hunger for this kind of solution, where the technology, the speed of incorporating a technology into the classroom is tremendous. It's far, I would say, right now, in sense of the jumps, the technological jumps that are happening there, it's actually moving so fast with especially access to the mobile technology, using the device as the gateway, the portal to the new world. So going with the Nigeria, Rwanda, South Africa, those are the countries which are also incorporating in the thousands, and they're preliminarily looking to use it with the students, provide the access to the online laboratories, and use this vision that we have in EON, the Classroom 3.0, which I think, together with the Learn for Life idea, is something extremely rewarding to watch.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, when you were talking here, I kind of remind me of one of these old commercials from Apple. It's one of my favorite commercials. And I would say for many years, probably for 15 years of our company existence, we were the crazy ones. So this commercial, if you don't remember, is called The Crazy Ones. And so there's a lot of black and white pictures of Einstein, Chaplin, Picasso, and the statement is, and it almost tears my eyes every time I heard that statement, is that and the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world, they are the ones that do. So that was very valid for us. I felt I one of these crazy ones for 15 years. And nowadays, I must say, we actually coming out of this crazy period, because now it's becoming adopted by the normal people. And in that process, it's very interesting to look at who's doing it first. It's not Harvard, it's Harare. It's not USC, it's Rwanda. It's not NTU, although they're doing it to a large extent, but it's not Oxford. But it is places like Togo. And that also reminds me of what happened, for example, with mobile technology. I remember sitting in a room with Siemens, an Indian telecom, and China Telecom, and the Chinese and the Indian were taking notes about everything Siemens. There was like drips of gold in their statements, and they were saying it's going to take you 42 years to drop all the copper wires, and they were taking notes, and you may come in the top 60 in the next 10 years. And look today. The Chinese telecom and the Indian telecom are the number one in the world, right? Siemens, I don't even know what they're doing in that segment anymore. And I see the same possibility now. And the reason for that is very simple. Every kid in Nigeria has at least one mobile phone. If you've been abroad anywhere, they may have a Chinese knockoff, but they have it. And what was missing was what we've been able to provide now, the ability to capture, create interaction, publish it, and make it available, accessible, and affordable. And that's what I'm hearing now, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. Sorry, I got carried away there, but coming back to the point is that it's wonderful to be talking with you guys, because I know how passionate you are. I know how many hours you work on this, and our schedule are crazy, because sometimes you feel you're a little bit man on a mission, but also see now that it provides rewards. So, and in the end of the day, that's all we can ask, right? I'm 58, maybe I have 7,000 days left of career if I'm in perfect health, maybe 3,000. And you to explain a couple of things that's going to happen when someone joins our program, okay? So I'm interested, Matt, if you can help me. So let's say I'm a partner of EON, I've signed a program, and it's the day after I got my licenses delivered. So explain to me what's going to happen. So let's start with the needs assessment process, if you can describe that a little bit. I know that you have something you call self-directed learning. Can you talk a little bit to that, please?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen here too. So I'll start with the self-directed learning a little bit. One thing we've heard here, let me maximize my screen too, from a lot of my colleagues, is that we're really achieving scale in implementations. And one educational concept that we have applied, it's very similar to the flipped classroom. Or if you think back when you were a student, you think about what you remember, it was probably the labs, the things that you did that was hands-on, not the lecture, for sure. So self-directed learning is really this flipped classroom that which students create. They get a deep understanding for a concept or a topic, and then they present it to their peers and teachers. And if you look at this slide here, you can see this customer here, which is a big European university, they implemented the self-directed learning around this point in time. And of course, they got a lot more users because the students signed on. But more importantly, the students created the vast majority of the assets here at this point in time, over 4,000 assets and about close to 1,700 lessons. So you can really help achieve scale with this approach. And since EON-XR is so easy and fast to learn, you can get there very quickly. And if you look at what do the students get out of this, and you can look at a lot of Ivy League schools that are deploying this teaching methodology today, not necessarily with XR, but they are. You get a very active learning, you get engaged students. You develop not the memory skills that we used to do, at least the older ones of us, but you develop critical skills, critical thinking, analysis, inquiry, etc. You also learn a little bit about XR, this new toolbox for the future, and you learn collaboration, cooperation, and you really dive deep into subject. So self-directed learning, I would say, is foundational for successfully deploying EON-XR.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And there's this saying, I've always said this, and people that have heard me probably bored to death to hear it again, but I really like Confucius with, I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand. So it's the doing part, and that applies to all of us. I never finished my PhD, but it's only when I was a PhD student in teaching that I understood certain concepts by actually doing that. So tell me a little bit more about the needs assessment and how that works and how that connects with what we then apply.
Sure. So that's one of the first things that we do when we start to onboard a new client. And we have an online forum that we start with to collect some information. Happy to share that. And then we work typically with our academic champion. And it could be champions, if it's large implementations like we heard in Mississippi, for instance. And the academic champion is typically a dean or department head or some faculty that is responsible for curriculum. And if you have multiple programs, you of course, bring in multiple persons there. Has 30-plus year experience from higher education. So we work with what we call curriculum alignment. How can you best implement and take advantage of EON-XR based on your curriculum? We have a 9-step modalities of instruction, resources, and then we help our clients to select the department. So if it's a GDP, how do we quickly get out to the 5,000 students? Or like you've heard in some cases, 20 or 30,000 students. So that's a brief summary of kind of the needs assessment approach. But the key is to match the curriculum as successfully as possible with the EON-XR, and that's where we spend a lot of time.
And Jamie, thank you much. That was very helpful. I'm an engineer. I like to think in a very structured, step-by-step manner. Can you share a little bit with me about the 9-step implementation, what this is all about? I know that Dr. Luker has worked with you on that. And it was a question actually for John Green, so I hope you don't mind if you take that instead. Yeah.
All right. So essentially the 9-step implementation plan is just trying to break it down in a sequential project process first. I'm sorry, of how that you begin to integrate this into the curriculum as Matt was talking about for using with students. So you identify.
Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there for a second? Because John is still with us and he has not contributed anything. So I come up with a way to make him be part of this meeting. So while you talk, John, why don't you share your screen and show us the 9-step? So this way, you actually are contributing in a way. Oh, by the way,
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh. Log out, restart, log back in.
Okay, so sorry, with all due respect, Jamie.
No.
We'll bring the young boy to the meeting now. We all farts can take a step back now and relax. Okay.
Let me take over, and this is what Dan just really quickly I wanted to touch base when I was doing the demo. To talk about this, I think this is a real powerful story right here. Mm-hmm. Students are able to access content right through their devices. You don't need fancy equipment. Everything that they already have and in the classroom they can use. So this is what's really exciting about this technology, and especially the new features in the 9.0. So as you can see, I'm in a actual lesson right now. I'm looking at a motor, and I'm just rotating this, and you can just see the real-time shadow effects, the new quality, the new visuals here. And look at this. Now we can have a video side by side with the actual motor. So I can learn from a multitude of visuals through this lesson, through audio, video, the educator's voice. I can switch this around to different modalities, even have in multiple languages. So Dan, we talked about cover Latin America. Been working with a lot of clients in LATAM. We have deals in Honduras, Panama. So we actually can make
Brazil soon.
Brazil soon, exactly.
And you speak all these languages, which is amazing itself.
And even here's the content we have in Portuguese, in Spanish. So the ability to reach a multitude of students in different languages and really personalize it to their needs. That's what's really exciting about this platform. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and you know what I want? I want to see it in AR.
In AR, good point there. Okay, let's flip this around.
And do you have any animation? This one maybe now doesn't have anything. Or does it?
This does have animation. Okay, now we have a live shot. You're seeing this live. And look at the light source as I get close.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking.
That is.
Left now, just to see that we're not faking it.
Yep, yes. This is live.
Yeah, left, yeah. It's all live. And what phone? Oh, wow. What phone do you use? What's the brand?
So this is an iPhone 12.
iPhone 12. Okay, so you have LiDAR with that also. That's cool.
Yep.
So basically, you can have objects occluded. You can be behind the desk, etc. Yeah. Excellent. So should we bring it back to the 9th step, or is that?
Let's do that. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's talk through what the 9th step implementation plan entails.
Okay, so let me make this a little bigger. So you see my screen here?
Yes. Yeah, it's fine. You're doing fine. Okay. You don't have to work.
So basically, it's a process of getting organized, getting this program up and running through a series of basic steps that we have outlined, which starts identifying who's your team. Who are your XR champions at your institution that are going to lead this project, lead this program, and expand it to other people. So you identify these key people that are going to run this program and going to participate. These people go through an initial training. We call this Educator course, which will teach them the basics. It's a 4-hour workshop divided by 2 days, where they'll be trained on how to create lessons and how to publish those lessons. So as soon as you identify these key people, take them through the Educator course. Next step, identify your students. Who are your students that are going to participate in this program? We've had programs over 3,000, 5,000 learners and much more, where they've identified key people that are going to come through this program. Step 3 is where you host a series of workshops. You present workshops for your students. You establish programs for them to come in and use the platform in context to your programs at your institution. They'll be able to be taught on how to create content using our platform. Again, relevant for their needs, relevant for the classes that they're taking, so they really can customize this experience to your departments. Again, we go through what Matt's talked about, self-directed learning, showing students how they can guide themselves through a series of steps, through these training, and really allowing the students to become, in a way, their own teachers, expediting that learning process. So as we go through step 4, teachers will outline the learning outcomes. What are the objectives of this implementation? What's expected of the learners? As we go through, teachers will set the criterias. What are the minimum criteria to meet as students are designing these experiences? And as we come through, teachers will set the appropriate experience to self-directed learning. And getting to the latter parts, that's where students will begin publishing their work, publishing the content that they've made within the institution, assign it to different departments, getting that collaborative experience involved. And then the evaluating of lessons. Teachers will evaluate the lessons, and then that will bring us to guiding the students for peer evaluation. So this is the exciting part, how this platform can engage in collaborative learning. bring multiple students together and learning from each other, learning from each other's lessons, and then finally getting to that, looking at the top students, looking at those best lessons. So this is just a blueprint that you can use to fit into your model in your departments.
Excellent. You know, the takeaway, at least that I use from this process that you described, is the fact that we are not only democratizing XR, special VR house, no, PowerPoint house to talk to a PowerPoint professor to help you to do your PowerPoint. The same, right? It's a process that everybody gets access to. And so I have one more question for you, and then I move over to Jonathan Lee. Tell me a little bit about how students and faculty members are certified.
Exactly. So the certification process happens through our Educator course. So they'll go through this 4-hour workshop where they learn about the tools, learn how to create a lesson through your cell phone, through the desktop. And after that, this is a certification exercise. We'll give you the criterias. You go out, create your own lessons for a couple of weeks, and you assign those lessons back to us, and we'll evaluate that you met certain measurements and criterias. And as soon as that happens, we'll be able to send you a certificate that you are certified in the Educator course. And
what are kind of prerequisites? I kind of already talked about it, but it has to be very clear. What kind of prerequisites do we require from faculty members? What type of specialty do they need to have?
Well, we looked at for innovation, faculty members that want to be innovative, want to be creative in implementing this technology, willing to look at their curriculum, looking to think of creative ways how we can implement this into their curriculum. Perhaps background in multitude of programs, not necessarily technical and tech, but willing to explore EON-XR in their various departments.
So what I take away here is that it's very more important that I understand my matter with this physics or chemistry versus that I'm a tech guy. Correct? Is that right?
Yes. The beauty of this, and I've heard this from many Educator course participants, they say, I don't have to code. I don't have to code to implement this technology into my classroom. I can just come with my own knowledge of my department. So that's all that's needed in that open mind and create creative spirit to make this happen.
Now, going back, so there's two sides of this, right? We talked a lot about the technique, but obviously there's a bigger chunk that is at the core of what teaching is all about, which is the pedagogical aspect. So I know you are an educator, so is Jamie. So I'll ask you a little bit about this. If you can tell me, John Lee, about what exactly are the guidelines that we as a company can provide teachers and students?
Guidelines. Well, number one is there's never a wrong way to use the platform. I mean, I think the beauty about EON-XR is there's no right or wrong way to use it. We have people who design lessons. Like if I want to do a flipped classroom, right? They can go through the whole process of designing a contained lesson. If they want to use it as an in-class teaching tool, they can do so as well. In many cases, even with the self-directed learning, right, when we see students creating lessons, what the question becomes like, how do the students know what to design, right? And I think John mentioned just now about the 9 steps, and one of the key things is that in the Educator course, when we equip faculty, we're not only just talking about functional skills, but we want to give them ideas in how you would implement this in the classroom. But more importantly, how would your students react and use it in the classroom? So, there are a few ways we do this, at least from my experience. And of course, Jamie, Martin, feel free to jump in, John as well, of course. Number one, we actually have a design, kind of a design brief. We call it a design brief. It's actually co-authored by Jamie and our Chief Learning Officer, Dr. Peter Luca. It's a brilliant document. Actually, you know what? I actually have it here with me. Maybe I'll just give everybody a quick sneak peek. We actually have this. So we actually have 2 editions of this. We have one for students and one for faculty and teachers. And the whole point about this, having this guide, is about, number one, giving them ideas like, where would I use EON-XR in my course? how would I evaluate it? How would I design the lesson? And even for students, when they're doing, like, whether self-directed or when they're creating their own content, same thing, right? We provide this through our expertise and our experience, both as an educator and being students ourselves, right? I mean, we're always students. What would make sense to help me better understand what I need to design, or how the user is going to consume it? So we provide, guides like this. We have, webinars. We run, monthly webinars with different topics. We run a quarterly webinar, which we call it the XR Innovator webinar, where Dr. Peter Luca, our Chief Learning Officer, again, he runs a very high level, very pedagogy-centered discussion and workshops for users.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yep. Sorry, I didn't want not to do. Just for the audience, if I want to learn more about, let's say I'm a teacher, I know that they can get access to this. Point us where it is. It's under resources, our website, and you click resources
resources. That's right.
Down so that you have a application resources, then different. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, it's a lot to learn in. Thank you for that. Okay. So now towards our meeting, we are over time. This is so interesting. I couldn't resist to ask follow-up questions. Let's say I am a partner. I've signed the agreement. Kind of asked you a little bit of that before, but give me 5 things, Mats, that I should expect from EON within, let's say, a week or 2 after I've signed an agreement. What will those 5 things be?
Yeah. So once we've engaged in an agreement, there are kind of 5 key points that we go through, and there's a lot of sub things that happen here. But we, of course, deliver the XR Center or the platform to the customer, so they have access. And the first thing we do is that we do a handover implementation kickoff from our business development department to the implementation team and the customer. So here we work with the academic champion. Maybe there is a dean or someone that was behind this from a high level. We work with the IT department, a few key members like that, to make sure everything goes smoothly. We've heard this a number of times, but one other very important point is the pedagogical implementation. We've heard about the mindset process, needs assessment, etc. But beyond that, we also do an in-depth session. Typically, it's either Jamie or our Chief Learning Officer that does this together with faculty to make sure we get as much information as possible. Under the GGP, we also work actively, and this is a key point as well, applying for grants together. That's part of the program. So we have one person on our side, or a couple of people actually, that specialize in this, either writing or supporting, and working with our counterparts with a partner or customer there. And then we have some promotional activities that we're working together, creating these use cases, success stories, references, and of course also very important in, for instance, the grant application process, etc. If you're interested to learn more about this, just reach out, and we're happy to share a lot of the details. We heard John talk about educator training, certification. We have an admin training. So early on in the process, we train the IT department so they can seamlessly link up with this LMS and make sure it's easy for faculty and students to get on board. So there's a lot more to it if you're interested.
Thank you for that, Mats. And I know that you're leading the team in this effort. And this is actually where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. My next question, we are around 2 questions left, is, many times when I've seen them, the last 20 years when people implement VR, it's either used in research or it's used in some lab, but it's not part of the PowerPoint kind of regular activity. So my question is, the education that we are looking at, is it extra curriculum or is it part used of the regular curriculum? That's a question for Martin, but I also want to have Jamie's thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, the approach to this is depends also on the customer's approach, but we believe that this is a new curricula as well. So and I wouldn't be saying even the change, because the change is the word that the people are afraid of. I would say that's improvement towards the ability to utilize the technology as not as an interruption factor, but as an engaging, enhancing of experience, immersive element. So I think this is the elements that we already, with our years of experience working with different industry, we're working towards that. We don't throw away what exists. We're finding creative ways, and we also learning from the partners, because that's what I like to use the word partners versus clients, because this is a bi-directional process. When on one hand, we as a technology provider, we learn what's necessary to be implemented, what makes the tool better, what makes the tool more aligned in regarding either implementation, IT systems, the usability and the cultural aspects of the learners. On the other hand, the trainers, the educators that we train as the users, they are adapting it to their own thing. So we're working together to make it sure that the adaptation of the curriculum happens on multiple levels, from the students who are the core user, the volume user, towards the educators, and even the champions, directors that are very proud of that change making happens in the organization, to be the leading organization that are not just in this 80% of the organization that have VR but never use that, but actually being into this leading role when you can use the technology, and it's not because it's technology, but it's changing the way we teach it, changing the way we learn.
Excellent. Jamie, your thought, because I know Martin is like me, an engineer, but also an educator, but you are coming from the education part. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, so a couple of things. I mean, it is an integral part of the teaching and learning process. So it should be used on a regular basis. It can be integrated in multiple ways. But I think the other point, going back to John Lee about innovation, and John both, about innovation and creativity and so forth, I thought I would share just a quick view here of some ideas we've been kind of bouncing around of how you could use the platform inside of this environment to better engage. And so you can do it as part of professional development programs, workforce development. We don't even think about how we work with our partners and how we can use this to do workforce training for welders, electricians, and others who come back for CEUs. Create student pathways. Think about as a community college, dual credit, dual enrollment models where you can go back and work with students in high school who are building lessons that may be used in college, which excites that student about coming to college. So that democratization comes in, targeted instruction, summer camps, multiple ways you can look at XR hackathons. You can use the platform for that as well. Development teams, or just having people who as a lead XR strategist who comes up with other ideas and creative ways to use it. So it's a very powerful tool. And I think that I wanted to share this last comment from me that goes along with this, that when I started in this journey of VR and teaching and learning back March 8th, 2002, I had a statement from Alvin Toffler, Future Shock. You remember Future Shock? And all of you, and a white paper intro from Bill Gates. But this statement stuck with me, was that the elite of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. What better way can you learn, unlearn, and relearn than using XR? And truthfully, this XR platform enables you to do that. So that's why I'm excited about it still yet.
Very, very true. Very true. And it's lifelong learning. There's a reason our nonprofit called EON Learn for Life, because we can, if you stop learning, if you stop doing that, you're not going anywhere. Now, an interesting thing you said that connects, I know that we, in conjunction with the launch of this solution 9.0, we are also having a global competition where our participants from around the globe can create their experiences and in the context. So that is extremely exciting. I've never been to Harare. I don't know how many guys have been to Harare, but I would like to see the application from our partner in Harare, in the streets of Harare, or Laos, or Bogota. That is for me very intriguing. And then sometimes when we interact with partners initially, they say, listen, man, first of all, we had a pandemic. I had to redo all my training. Now I have to be Zoomified. All my I'm underpaid, tired, and you want me now to do VR and AR? Forget about it. I'm not going to do that. And then they say, wait a second. Do you mean that the students are doing their homework and I just assign them? Yeah. And that the system actually tracks what they're doing when they're doing it and gives them even a score? Yes. And they actually engage and happy and reports to the parents that my teacher is fantastic? Yes. And I have coffee meanwhile? Correct. Okay, now you're talking. So the ability to use this tool a little bit like Karate Kid, reverse, right? So do less and engage more and adopt the future in a way that's less painful, I think is quite intriguing. Okay, so John Green, average size. What's the average size of an implementation for EON at the moment?
Well, at the moment, we're working with a lot of different programs. We're working with GGPs where we're offer up to 5,000 licenses for students, faculties, and teachers and administrators. Typically, an average size of an implementation and an educator training course as we get started, those classroom sizes run about 30, 40 people, give or take. I've had some institutions that have multiple cohorts come through the training, but the idea is once we get this handful of XR champions within the various departments, they will cause this multiplication effect. They will take it to the other departments and staff and eventually to the students. But those are the sizes of the numbers that we're currently working with.
Yep. So I believe the average size of license that we provide and sold is around 5,700, 6,000. So it's growing to that level, which for me, if you told me that 10 years ago, I would not believe it. Okay, I think it's time to round this. And before we end up to the finish here, although it's been a very intriguing discussion, I would like to take some questions from the audience. And I was monitoring here the questions. One of the questions is, I'll take Matt to answer that. Can I book a deep dive meeting to learn more about this if I'm curious about EON? And how do I do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, so you can reach out to your business developer. And I think that the best part of a deep dive is that you get to spend about an hour with one of my colleagues here or another person from our growing customer success team. And as you've heard, they've lived and breathed implementation. And what we do is that we do a live demo, much more than we had time to see today. So you get to see the creation aspect, the deployment aspect, etc. We also spend some time on relevant use cases. So if you're a technical college or a university or K-12, which is a growing market for us, we adapt that, as well as testimonials. So you can see who else is using this, what are they saying, what was their experience. And then we do a little bit of brief review on implementation process. If you decide to move forward, it's good to know what kind of comes next, a little bit more details and we cover today. And then most importantly, you get a chance to pick my colleagues' brains, do a little Q&A and take part of their experience. So we love to do these sessions, and it's seeing is believing, as we say, and seeing the tool and the process and the experience of others. That's really what we try to convey.
Okay, thank you, Mats. Indeed, seeing is believing. And talking about seeing is believing, let me just, I can't resist to share my screen. I'm not supposed to show my meetings. That was the wrong slide, but this is the right slide. We do have a big event coming up. I talked about it, and you can register today. Just go to our website, participating. This is a journey that you will continue. And I know there's already 3 requests here to do this again. So we will do it as technology and our pedagogical approaches are progressing. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good afternoon and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.